In a world that never stops testing our limits, what would a Stoic do? Imagine if your boss just criticized your work in front of everyone. Your partner doesn't answer your texts. Your investment just lost half its value. What do? More importantly, what would a Stoic do? Join us as we talk through a 5-point plan we call the Stoic Decision Framework for taking on life's challenges before tackling them. We'll apply this to real-life situations and show you how having a framework like this can help you live your life by drawing from the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius and other great Stoic philosophers. But let's start with an example, a fictionalized version of something that really happened to me. What would you do if you got a call from the doctor saying you might only have a few years left to live? It started with something seemingly trivial. My shoes didn't fit anymore. At first, I thought maybe they'd shrunk, or perhaps I'd been on my feet too much that week. But when I noticed my ankles were puffy and swollen, with deep impressions where my socks had been, I knew something wasn't right. Still, I did what many of us do. I waited, hoping it would get better on its own. 2 weeks later, my feet couldn't fit into my largest pair of shoes. That's when I finally made the appointment. The doctor took one look and ordered a battery of tests, blood work, urine analysis, the works. When the results came back, he sat me down with a serious expression. "Your kidney function is very compromised," he said, showing me the lab results that demonstrated this. "You have chronic kidney disease." He went on to explain that my kidneys were functioning at less than half their normal capacity. Chronic kidney disease doesn't come with an expiration date. It could stabilize with medication and lifestyle changes, or it could progressively worsen until my kidneys failed completely. If that happened, I'd be looking at dialysis or a transplant. The timeline? Impossible to predict. Could be years, could be decades. It was the kind of news that makes the floor drop out from under you. The kind that divides your life into before and after. But as I sat there in that sterile exam room, I turned to a Stoic approach for help. The natural reaction to such news, and the one I initially had, was to panic. I spent the first night after the diagnosis frantically Googling kidney disease statistics. I abandoned my principles, letting raw emotion take control. Instead of taking time to reflect and process, I jumped straight into catastrophizing. I imagined worst-case scenarios and treated them as certainties. I wallowed in self-pity, asking, why me? I put aside thought about lifestyle changes and what I could do extend my future. In short, I did everything a Stoic would counsel against, letting fear override reason. And then, within a couple days, I came back to my senses. After the panic had subsided, I worked myself into a calmer state of mind. Think of Marcus Aurelius's words about facing illness. Don't look at it as if you were unfortunate, but accept it as one more task given by nature. I shifted my perspective. Instead of seeing the diagnosis as a death sentence, I began viewing it as a challenge to be met with reason and dignity. I took time to sit quietly with the news, letting my rational mind engage with the reality of the situation. Rather than imagining the worst, I focused on what the doctors were actually telling me. I read good medical advice instead of horror stories on message boards. Most importantly, I remembered that while I couldn't control the disease itself, I could control my response to it. I developed a methodical approach, tracking my diet, establishing an exercise routine for my mood more than anything else. I also started the steroid regimen my doctor prescribed, a common treatment for kidney-related swelling. And it worked. I got better. Within a year, my body had stabilized, without the swelling. I still live with the knowledge that my health could take a turn for the worse, but so far, it's been good. And the Stoic principles I'm going to outline next helped get me into a better state of mind. The points in this framework are: 1. Name the challenge. 2. Find what you can control. 3. Accept reality. 4. Define your duty. 5. Act with courage. The first step in the Stoic Decision Framework is name what you're facing, not just in broad emotional terms, like "this is terrible" or "I'm scared," but with precise language that engages your rational mind. When we name something accurately, we begin to have power over it. Consider Marcus Aurelius's practice of breaking down seemingly frightening things into their constituent parts. When faced with luxury foods, he would tell himself, "This is just a dead fish. This is just a dead bird." By naming things precisely, he stripped them of their power to overwhelm him. We can apply this same principle to our modern challenges. Instead of saying, "My life is falling apart," name the specific challenge. "I need to come up with the money to pay for a repair." Instead of, "Everyone hates me," identify the actual situation. "I wasn't invited to a lunch I wanted to go to." Instead of, "I'm a failure," say, "I fell short of my goal today." This naming process engages your rational mind, pulling you out of pure emotional reaction. Second, it helps define the scope of what you're dealing with. A precisely named challenge has boundaries. It isn't infinite. You can wrap your mind around it. Third, it creates mental distance between you and the problem, allowing you to see it more objectively. The key is to use language that is neither minimizing nor catastrophizing. Be honest, but precise. By naming the challenge accurately, you create a foundation for all the other steps in the framework. You can't effectively address what you haven't identified. Next, find what you can control. The core of Stoic philosophy revolves around Epictetus's fundamental insight. Some things are in our control, and others are not. When facing any situation, take a moment to draw two circles: an inner circle of what you can control and an outer circle of what you can't. Your thoughts, decisions, actions, and responses belong in the inner circle. Other people's opinions, external events, and natural phenomena belong in the outer circle. But be careful. Some things require a careful analysis to see the difference. Consider a job interview. You can't control whether you get the job, but you can control your preparation, your punctuality, and your professional demeanor. In a relationship conflict, you can't control your partner's reactions, but you can control your words, your tone, and your actions. This process of breaking down situations into controllable elements will show you opportunities for action. Even in situations that feel hopeless, there are usually aspects you can influence. During illness, you might not control the disease, but you can control your treatment adherence, lifestyle choices, and attitude toward recovery. In financial setbacks, while you can't control market movements, you can control your spending, saving, and investment decisions. Throughout all this, remember moderation. Avoid the trap of learned helplessness, "Nothing is in my control," and the trap of overconfidence, "Everything is in my control." Instead, carefully identify where you have genuine influence and where you can create potential for change. Next, accept reality. The Stoics were realists who understood that accepting reality is a process that involves both mind and heart. As Epictetus pointed out, it's not things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. This is why accepting reality begins with an honest look at our emotional response. Acceptance is about facing facts squarely. If you've lost the job, accept that it's gone. If the relationship has ended, accept that it's over. If the investment has failed, take the loss. This doesn't mean you like what happened. It simply means you're choosing to work with reality rather than against it. Remember that this process can take time. Give yourself permission to gradually adjust to new realities. Talk with trusted friends or mentors who can offer perspective. Consider whether you need physical rest. Stress takes a toll on the body, and exhaustion can cloud judgment. The Stoics understood that we're integrated beings. Mental acceptance often requires physical well-being. So do what you need to do to give yourself the space to work. Next, determine your duty. The Stoics believed that living with virtue was our primary purpose, and this belief provides a powerful framework for decision-making in difficult times. The core Stoic virtues, wisdom, justice, courage, and self-control, serve as our compass. Ask yourself, what would a wise person do in this situation? What does justice require? Where must I show courage? How can I maintain self-control? Duty, as we're using it here, is about your personal values and roles. Are you a parent, a teacher, a leader, a friend? Each role carries specific responsibilities. Consider Marcus Aurelius, who was both a philosopher and an emperor. His personal writings show him constantly examining his duties in both roles, asking himself how to serve Rome while maintaining his integrity. We can do the same with our modern roles and responsibilities. The key is to be specific. Ask yourself, what exactly does virtue require of me today? Maybe it's having a difficult but necessary conversation. Maybe it's admitting a mistake. Maybe it's persevering when you want to quit. Your duty might not be what you want to do, but it's what you know you need to do. By defining your duty, you create a clear path forward. External circumstances might be chaotic, but your responsibility remains steady. This is what the Stoics taught us to do to succeed. Finally, act with courage. All the previous steps in our framework lead to this crucial moment: action. The Stoics understood that philosophy without action is incomplete. As Seneca said, words should pave the way for deeds. Start by developing a concrete plan. Break down your duty into specific, actionable steps. If you need to have a difficult conversation, script out your key points. If you're facing a career change, map out the necessary stages. If you're dealing with illness, create a detailed treatment adherence plan. Be precise about what needs to be done and in what order. Before taking action, brace yourself emotionally. Remember Epictetus's advice to rehearse difficulties in advance. Imagine potential obstacles and your response to them. This isn't negative thinking. It's practical preparation. Tell yourself, this might be difficult. I might face resistance. I might feel uncomfortable. And that's okay. Draw strength from Stoic wisdom. Recall Marcus Aurelius's words, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Let obstacles sharpen your resolve rather than weaken it. Remember that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting despite fear. Then, engage. Take that first step. Make that call. Start that conversation. Begin that project. Do it even if your hands are shaking, even if your voice quivers, even if you're not completely sure of success. The Stoics knew that we grow through action, not contemplation. Remember, courage isn't a feeling, it's a choice. You might not feel brave, but you can choose to act bravely. Each time you choose action over avoidance, you strengthen your Stoic practice. You prove to yourself that you can face difficulty with dignity and purpose. And keep in mind, you don't have to walk this path alone. The Stoics themselves were part of a community, sharing wisdom and supporting each other's growth. You can join our mailing list at jointhestoiccommunity.com to stay in touch. Locally, you can have a friend you talk over these teachings with for accountability. Meet regularly with someone who understands your commitment to Stoic practice. Review how you've applied the framework to recent challenges. That way, you can get better over time. Remember, setbacks are not failures. They're opportunities for growth. When you fall short of your Stoic ideals, and we all do, treat it as a chance to refine your practice. Maybe you reacted emotionally before naming the challenge clearly. Maybe you fought against reality instead of accepting it. Each setback teaches you something valuable about your patterns and triggers. To advance your practice, keep a Stoic journal, just as Marcus Aurelius did. Document how you apply the framework to different situations. Note what works and what needs adjustment. Over time, you'll develop your own insights and variations that work particularly well for your circumstances. Maintain a long-term vision for your Stoic practice. This isn't about perfect application of principles. It's about steady progress toward greater wisdom and resilience. Each morning, Marcus Aurelius would prepare himself for the day ahead, anticipating challenges and reminding himself of his principles. Seneca would review his actions each evening, examining where he succeeded and where he could improve. Epictetus constantly tested his students with practical scenarios, pushing them to apply Stoic principles in real time. We can adopt similar practices today. Start small, perhaps with minor annoyances like traffic jams or delayed meetings. Apply the framework step by step. Name the challenge precisely. I'm stuck in traffic and might be late. Identify what you can control: your departure time, your route, your communication with others waiting for you. Accept the reality of the situation. The traffic exists, whether you rage against it or not. Then define your duty, perhaps to remain professional, to communicate clearly with those affected, to maintain your composure. Finally, act with courage by doing what needs to be done without complaint or excuse. As you practice with these smaller challenges, you build the mental muscles needed for bigger ones. Finally, please participate in our community of modern Stoic practitioners. Share your experiences in the comments below. What challenges are you applying this framework to? What insights have you gained? Your story might be exactly what another viewer needs to hear. If you found value in this approach to practical Stoic wisdom, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We're building a community of thoughtful individuals committed to living with greater wisdom and purpose. Each week, we explore practical applications of Stoic philosophy to modern challenges. Remember, as Epictetus said, don't just say you have read books. Show that through them you have learned to think better. Let's put this framework into practice, supporting each other as we face life's challenges with Stoic wisdom and courage. Thank you for joining me today. Until next time, keep thinking clearly and acting wisely.